Part 5. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 41. Yuandi's throat rolled and he couldn't make a sound several times. His hands clenched tightly on the goggles on her abdomen, and then he dropped his head, looking at the soul in his arms like a soul. Is his word dead? He slowly moved his fingers under her nose and put it against her carotid artery. Fingers became stiffer and colder. Iron. He squeezed her hand tightly with the other hand. She still held the copper coin in her hand, and the blood-stained copper coin rope did not know when he wrapped his hand around it, making red marks. He didn't seem to realize it, but he just stung her. The numbness of the thoughts and the return of the hindsight, followed by the boundless pain spread from the heart to the body. Makes him breathless every breath. He hugged her, motionless. He stared at her face, looking forward, expecting that the next moment she would open her eyes and smile at him, and smiled and called him pray for peace. Yan, if you don't want to go to the palace, you don't go. If you want to guard the border, then stay here. If you want to be a man, then you should be a town with a great reputation. Anything you want, as long as you wake up. Yan, do you wake up? Time division line. The night was cold, and Chiu's Huang laid a layer outside the window, and at a glance, it seemed as if the whole world was filled with white. Outside the door, father-in-law Su whispered to Luo Shanghai, "Your Majesty hasn't fallen asleep yet. Would you go in and advise him?" Since the return of His Majesty from Bianguan many years ago, the whole person has changed, not only silent, but also with a strange temper. His Majesty in Bianguanli wiped out the barbarians and settled down forever. From a young emperor who was constrained by officials everywhere, he suddenly became a king of words and words. This young emperor. His father-in-law was very happy for His Majesty, but he felt that His Majesty was not happy at all. His Majesty was not only unhappy, but also seemed to be on the verge of anger. Every time he served in the royal palace, he was in a state of trembling. The entire palace, and also Luo Shanghai, who is on the festival for General Ming, can make a few words under His Majesty, and His Majesty will become extremely gentle and patient in front of her. Su Gonggong watched Luo Shanghai enter the inner room, and his heart was really complicated. He didn't understand. His Majesty had called Luo Shanghai into the palace overnight. Why didn't he put people in the harem, but let her be Shang Yi? Is it because girl Luo San is the fiancée of General Ming? It can be argued that the third girl Luo should go to the Ming family to keep the festival, and His Majesty put people in the palace, even if he has not done anything to the third girl, but in the eyes of outsiders, this is to grab the good wife. I don't know how many people discuss the arrangement behind Ugh. He also remembered such a name without eating. In fact, the father-in-law Su was quite wronged. However, with the girl Luo San in front of the emperor, he basically did not need to risk speaking, so the father-in-law Su thought that the girl Luo San was not appropriate in the imperial palace, but she still hoped that the girl can always serve in the imperial palace. Putting the cloak on His Majesty's body, Luo Shanghai stepped back and whispered, "Your Majesty, you should go to bed, may you flop." Yuandi didn't say anything. He stood by the window, always staring outside. It's been another year. He remembered that the snow at the border was very big that year. He was so big. It was the only time to see snow like a goose feather. Since then, in many winter days, countless frost and snow in Kyoto have fallen behind the border. Send next chapter right away. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 42. Luo Shanghai went to the table and put the pieces on the chessboard into the chess box. Several letters were also placed on the table. Luo Shanghai organized the letters carefully and placed them in a sandalwood box beside them. It had been received countless times. She didn't have to read to know that those letters had the same content. After packing, She whispered again, "Your Majesty, it's time to go to bed." She stepped forward and gently pulled La Yuwendi's sleeve, but said helplessly, "Your Majesty, there is still a dynasty tomorrow." Yuwendi turned his head and squinted, her hand holding his sleeve. Luo Shang'ai immediately retracted his hand. "Your Majesty, is there a flop tonight?" Emperor Yuan looked down slightly, revealing Luo Nang'ai with Bainan between his neck. He said, "You young people in this court, do you like it?" Luo Shang'ai heard that, looking up pale, he knelt down in front of Yuwendi. "Your Majesty, I am Ming's housewife. If you don't want to keep me, I can only go back to Ming's house to observe the festival for General Ming." Yuwendi's lips were slightly sloppy, and Ayan was his woman, so no other woman was required to observe the festival for Ayan. He left the woman in the palace, and also wanted the woman not to deliberately occupy the Ayan. Luo Shang'ai didn't know that she had touched the inverse scale of Yuwendi. She lifted her eyes and narrowed her eyes at the young emperor, and wanted to speak again, but could not say anything. The letters that were repeatedly capped by the young emperor, she could not understand the handwriting. She thought she had learned the secret tenderness of the young emperor's hard appearance. The emperor's love separated her life and death and separated her gender, which made her really distressed. Yuwendi interrupted Luo Shang'ai's thoughts, and his voice was cold and unquestionable. "The new Tan Hualang is good. I'll seal you as the county master, and have a good relationship with him for 100 years. Let's go and stay alone for a while." Luo Shang'ai's face was completely pale. She looked up and looked unbelievably at the emperor in front of the mighty shore. She never thought that she would leave the palace one day. She thought that although she was not the favorite in the heart of the emperor, it was also impossible. Replace that. Yuwendi ignored her. He cut the candle wick, and reopened the box with the envelope in the flickering candle light. She wrote the same content in numerous letters intercepted by Doc City. His Majesty. Meet the words like face. Ayan. When face to face, the 4 words are simple, but she contains countless expectations and hopes. He slowly rubbed his finger on the stationery, touched the word Ayan and murmured, "Ayan. Ayan, another winter is coming. Is it snowing in the border? Are you there? Are you still waiting?" The wind came in from the window, setting off the stationery in his hands, and the candle light could not bear the cold wind. He carefully put the stationery back into the box, gathered the cloak, rose, opened the lampshade, and cut the long candle wick. The candle flickered in his eyes, and he felt like he was standing in the doorway. It was her who cut the candle wick. Her figure is as beautiful as Yushulanzi. She turned back and called him pray for peace with a smile. She had a clear voice, just like Zuyu was pulsing in his heart, and ripples softened his heart. Ayan, he reached out to catch her, but emptied. The candlestick fell to the ground and the flames rose. He stood in place, and under the light of the flames, gradually became a black stretched shadow. Behind the wide open windows are layers of towering palaces. This is his palace, this is his world. But he has only one shadow. No red face or confidant, beauty and hero have died. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 43. Yan Ji opened his eyes and realized that he was not next to the ontology tree, but in the space of the geeky system that the chickens nested during this time. She was a bit uncomfortable with this new environment, and frowned at the thick layer of melon seed skin on the floor of the eye system space, and her eyes fell on the corner of the crying chicken. She eased her emotions and asked, "What's wrong? That guy, that's so pitiful. He wants to take your body back and bury him 100 years later, but everyone won't let it. I want to bury you in the border. Oh, this is the difference between life and death. Wu is so painful, he is so painful. It fluttered in the arms of Yanj with flapping wings, and Xiao Yan's chest hit Yanj at once. You are so bad, ah, I am so sad. Yanj grabbed one of its legs and slumped. Can't you talk? The chicken cub's wistful eyes were sober to the expressionless speech on it. Oh, I have watched a lot of palace dramas recently, and you forgive me. Yanj put it on the footstool and asked, why not in our chaotic space? Compared to the chaotic space where there is no fart, the chicken actually prefers the space of the geek system. It blinked with small eyes and said weakly, you are bound to the geek system, and you have stepped on the million without completing all the tasks. At the peak of the fans, we can only nest in this small place. The corner of Yan Ji's eyes narrowed, and before the Yan song spoke, the chicken immediately shrugged off, I didn't know it would be like this before I was bound. Yan Ji sensed by closing her eyes. Although she was not in the chaotic space, she could still feel that her own body had grown into a small bud-like branch. This little tree bud was nourished by the soul source from the host this time. Theoretically, this time the host is an ordinary woman. The soul source is extremely powerful. How can the tree buds nourished by the soul source be so weak? What makes her most incredible is that she only has 3 branches left. Gone, is she basically bald now? She turned into a bald head? As a tree, Yanj is no different at all. She has the aesthetics of a popular tree. The standard configuration is lush foliage. However, since encountering the bird/beast that ate her, the very lush hair she had raised has been visible to the naked eye. Now she's better, she has become a bald. If it weren't for the fire, it would burn itself into ashes. At this moment the words must be in a state of anger. Holding the chicken's wings in one hand, Yanj gritted his teeth and asked, where have all my branches gone? Don't you, I haven't told you good news yet. What good news? No matter how good the news is, she is despairing about her baldness. Yan Ji stared at the fiercely. If there were any who would not give a 1 2 3 reason, she would abandon the friendship of hundreds of years to stew the sky and eat it. Where can the chick not know that Yanj's love for her own hairs? So without waiting for the song to ask, it immediately howled and said, your ancestor has a tendency to condense. That guy has eaten all your branches. You can feel it for yourself, it is really it. You have kept it for so long, it can be a success, you should be happy. Yanj couldn't be happy, and now she wanted to kill the Buddha and kill the ghost. When she killed the ghost, she turned her bird into a dreg. The soldier can be killed, and the bald can't bear it. The chick comforted her weakly, in fact, you are not completely bald, you still have a small bud. This little bud was nourished by the soul of her host this time. Yanj Taiking stood there with his face in his face, and it looked like it would explode in the next moment. The chicken was weakly away from her and kept a good distance. Actually, this is good news. You have worked hard for so many years and finally cultivated your destiny. This is equivalent to angels having wings. You should be happy. It should be celebrated. Yan Ji stared at it, smiling grimly, ha ha. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 44. The chicken was shaken by the feather that was frightened by the voice, and felt in his eyes that he had sent this to Anchen, so he whispered, should you continue to take orders and enter the plane? Yan Ji's chest was undulating and he took a few deep breaths to calm himself. She still looked at the cub with no expression. Isn't this the order of the mighty one yet? Why didn't this order return? The pair of chicken eyes, which were already round and slick, were even more rounded at the moment, and their eyes floated a layer of water, looking innocent and aggrieved. It really did not expect that the words of the song were bald and they could still remember it. Is it the so-called cleverest? Of course, as a spiritual beast, it doesn't feel that the wood of the word song can be related to the clever thing, just like this task. Before the song was about to explode, it yelled, speaking of this mission, at the beginning I let you listen to me. You want to be self-righteous and say nothing is impossible. You failed this mission. You said that he was blackened by that mighty man. You know that you are going to get bad mold in the future. You just do listen to the old man and suffer in the face. In order to get rid of his responsibility, he cracked a lot, and the spitting stars were scattered, more powerful than what he said. The words were understood. The mighty man not only did not investigate the situation, but also became more and more confused about the so-called situation, so this mission failed. Of course, Yanj will not take responsibility on himself like the cock. She analyzed it, and she did it herself. Everyone in the world says that the beauty is thin, that love is a sing, and that first love is unforgettable, because love and beauty are abruptly stopped at the best time. Because the freeze is at the best time, it will be the deepest memory. Yanj reflects that her task means this time is absolutely okay, she is okay, so the problem is the mighty one. For example, the love affair that the mighty one wants to unravel may not be love, but may be affection. Well, so, she also has a responsibility, and she didn't study what kind of jeopardy this mighty man was going to break through from the beginning. Yanj interrupted the cub. What is the effect of a mission failure? This guy murmured for a long time without talking about ideas. The looked, this is the rhythm of turning the pages, and he was finally relieved at the bottom of his heart, and immediately said, the mighty one will continue to join the WDO. Once he joins the WDO, no matter where you are, he will be pulled into the plane he has trained. Help him complete the robbery. With him, this list has not been completed, and you can't take another list of powerful people for the time being. Yanj is a little confused. This is black. If I help him complete the calendar robbery, will my benefit still be? The chicken nodded and shook his head again. Seeing that Yanj was light-eyed and just thinking about the benefits, but didn't take the darkening of the mighty to his heart, he immediately reminded Yanj, you just need to help him complete it. Calendar robbery, of course, will still be good. But he is really blackened, and he still binds you. If this love robbery can't be broken, he won't be able to get in and out like the horns of a bull. He can't get to heaven. You have to be destroyed by heaven, and then you will be destroyed with him. It's a matter of life and death, and Yanji finally calmed down. Hey, he will die if he wants to die. What is it that pulls me? Doesn't the mighty one care about flowers and plants all over the world? He is too careful. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 45. At this point, the chickens hold the same attitude as Yanj. The almighty man is too narrow-minded. This is to use strength to bully them. As a result, the chicken seduce the seductive and or confusing feelings of the mighty one, and all the thoughts of digging the wall are completely lost. It comforts the words, it's alright, failure is success. We'll succeed. Go into the mission. Yanj ignored the dog's ridiculous reasoning, and she was tired physically and mentally. Now she just wanted to quickly upgrade this broken system to make her own branches longer. After speaking, I immediately remembered what happened, and Yanj was wary and asked the chicken again, this time only accept the mission of the enthusiasts, will the powerful person appear in the mission plane? The chicken is also a little uncertain, I don't know if it will, but if he is in the plane, the system will prompt. I hope this guy can be in the plane. Although Yanj is a tree and relatively lazy, she likes to do things cleanly and without dragging her feet. She really wants to quickly solve the problem of this powerful person, and then get her own that reward. And even if she knows that the mighty one is the darling of heaven, the chance of being destroyed by heaven is not high, but with such a yoke, she is still a sense of crisis, so she still hopes that this matter will come to an end soon. In this case, the host is a career geek. The host in the Yan Song mission is a screenwriter. Every script written by the host is in flames, and she is a golden sign in the industry. Not only that, but because the host has beautiful white legs and long legs, she is also a flower of kaolin in the eyes of the people. The host of Cao Linghua was married very early. Her man and her were high school classmates. Both of them became North Drift after high school. Both people dreamed of becoming actors, so they followed the crew directly as a group performer. In the beginning, I was very disappointed. I could only nest in the basement of Beijing, and ran every day on the road to being a group performance interview, day after day. The host also has an interest in writing scripts. Later, the host's script was unintentionally seen, and she gradually established a foothold in the screenwriting industry. However, her husband was still unknown. Husband Wang Xiaoming's acting career relies on the host's support. There is a well-known screenwriter wife, it is difficult for Wang Xiaoming not to be famous. He gradually gained his own fame, his own fans, and his own secrets. When the host noticed that Wang Xiaoming was engaged with his own assistant, Wang Xiaoming slammed her and accused her of being a workaholic. There was no tenderness at all, and he was always driven by him as a slave, and he did not want to have children. A selfish woman, he even scolded the host, not even a woman. When the two were shabby, they had 2 buns for $1, one for each, and then eat it with an old godmother or mustard. Later, the host became famous. Because of her fame, Wang Xiaoming became more stressed. She always lost her temper for no reason, and always wondered if she was related to those directors. The host understood him, so he kept accommodating him. The host did not understand why the pillow man who had vowed to grow old became such a face. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 46. The host was not accused by Wang Xiaoming. The young and beautiful assistant kneeled in front of the host, begging, saying that he truly loves Wang Xiaoming, begging her to let Wang Xiaoming pass, and since she does anti-love, do anti-torture Wang Xiaoming. The host was stunned at the time. She didn't know how she rushed out of her so-called love nest. She was so distraught that she died in a car accident while driving away from the villa. After receiving the host's first life, Yanj finally had a long-lost familiarity. This is the normal state of women in the world. Women like Ming Lan are completely alien. The wish of the host is actually relatively simple. There are parents in her family. She used to guard against Wang Xiaoming. The money she earned was always handed over to Wang Xiaoming. When she died, she could not rest assured that her parents were afraid. The pain of living with white hair and black hair is even more scary for parents. She hoped that such men as Wang Xiaoming would be punished, and she hoped that her parents would not suffer from such a bereavement. The mission wish is relatively simple. The time of entry was just when the host rushed out of the villa. However, there is an accident that cannot be ignored. The chicken cub in the geeky system space said to Yanj, "That powerful person is also in this plane." Words, oh. Unexpectedly, also expected. The song of driving drove away from the car accident that caused the death of the host, squinting at the sky covered by dark clouds. The song of song hit a steering wheel and headed towards the position of the mighty. Before long, it was pouring down. Yanj parked the car on the side of the road and closed his eyes slightly in the car. It was because he felt that there would be a heavy rain tonight, and the host would not go home, so Wang Xiaoming dared to be so arrogant with his assistant in the host's bedroom. The first time he was hit by the host, Wang Xiaoming didn't admit his mistake, but bite back. I have to say that such a man really didn't take any care. It seems that he was taken care of by the host, so let's not be afraid. The phone rang at this time, and Yan Ji narrowed his eyes. It was Wang Xiaoming's call. She didn't answer, and Wang Xiaoming crackled and sent her several voice messages. After listening to the song, Wang Xiaoming first asked her where she was, to pay attention to her safety in rainy days, and apologized to her, saying that this was because he was too reckless and should not have said that to her just now. He talked about it later, saying that he was really under great pressure with her, and she was a workaholic who would not care about any of his feelings, which made him feel very, very painful. Yanj listened to his voice from beginning to end, and the cub blinked his eyes roundly, a little puzzled, and said, "Why does it sound like he suddenly feels poor?" "Yes, it's really pathetic," Yanj said. "It will be pathetic in the future." She paused and asked the cock, "Do you have any information on the situation of the mighty one in this plane?" "Yes," said the chicken, weakly pulling his wings. "His condition is not very good, and you are unlikely to complete the task this time." Yanj was curious. "What? He's dying?" "No," the chicken continued to sigh, "he is only 18 years old this year, too young, his tender hairs have not grown up at all, and it is not suitable for you to get down. When he grows up, I guess your body is also old." "Almost, you want to get down, maybe he can't get down." The chicken thinks that the so-called love by Yanj is completely useless this time, and this is a task destined to fail. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 47. The host's body doesn't seem to be too big, right? Yan Ji thought about it. The host is only 26 years old this year, and this time, she does not intend to use the so-called love to help the powerful person break through love. How is his family environment now? How does his loved ones treat him? "He ran out of the house when he was 12 years old, said the cub. "Now it's a street junk. At night, I'm a waiter in a bar. Alas, I find this powerful man has a rough life. His mother he died, his father remarried, and then sent him to his grandma. His grandma loved playing mahjong, and he basically rebelled from childhood." The lips of the words sang slightly. After the rain stopped, Yan Ji drove to the bar where the mighty one was. The name of the mighty man of this life is Chi Yuan, who is now 18 years old, and it is estimated that he belongs to the age of secondary 2. Yan Ji didn't expect her to be one step too late. There was a drunk and troubled incident in the bar. The waiter Chi Yuan had a fight with the guests and was taken to the police station together. Yan Ji drove to the police station at night. At the police station, he was asked about the situation and both were injured. The so-called guest had been taken to the hospital, but Chi Yuan was still in the police station. Yan Ji could not see anyone. She simply took out her cell phone and made a circle of phone calls. After finding a relationship, she took Chi Yuan out of the police station as her sister. The policemen at the police station also have a better attitude, saying that although the other party has a little background, this is a general fight, and Chi Yuan is also injured. The problem should not be a big problem. Yan Ji has been thanking the police, and then called those who she had found to thank him. He did not have time to look carefully when Chi Yuan came out and pulled the man into the car. When she hung up the phone and was ready to start the car, she realized that Chi Yuan's face was much bruised, and it was not a bit of a bump in the police mouth. There was blood on his forehead. It seemed that his head was broken. Yan Ji frowned, didn't speak, and went straight to the hospital. Chi Yuan thought that Yanj was the one sent by the bar to get him. He hadn't been working for a long time and had been waiting for his salary to be paid for the rent. Now it happened. Although he didn't regret the fight, he was afraid the bar would take him. The salary is deducted. In particular, when seeing Yanj being so serious, he was worried and said carefully, "Sorry, today is my fault. I shouldn't have a relationship with the guest." "Sister, manager, what did he say?" His voice was weak, with a little bit of begging. This sister was even more intimate. It's like a good brother and sister who really love each other with Yanj. This guy has a sweet mouth. Yan Ji turned his head and glanced at him, because of a fight. Chi Yuan's face was stiff. He lowered his eyelids and covered the disgust at the bottom of his eyes, but his voice was as weak as before. "Smashing me, I didn't hold back before I started. Sister, I am really wrong this time. Can you and the manager help me talk? Do NT deduct my salary? Okay. This bar certainly can't continue, but before leaving, he has to get the salary he deserves. Accustomed to the Emperor Yuan Ba's momentum, Qi Yuan's weak sample made Yanj really uncomfortable. Even the chicken in the system space of the geeky man focused his attention on Qi Yuan. Hey, this guy, why is his life miserable this time, and people have become so difficult to say. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 48. This kind of thing is also called tempering the mind. It is estimated that the last time the mighty person not only did not explore the situation, but also the mind was shaken, so this time will have such a lot of identity. I'm not a bar person. Yan Ji looked at the road ahead, his voice was calm. My name is Su Yan, and it has some relationship with your mother. You can call me Aunt Su in the future. In the plane of the host, the name is promised. Qi Yuan raised her eyebrows and re-examined the song with a little surprise. How did you find me? What is your relationship with my mother? Why have I never seen you? I've been looking for you for a long time. Yan Ji didn't care about his repeated questions, and smiled and answered, I've been looking for you. You don't know. In order to find you, I'm going to turn this day over. Her exaggeration ignored the issue of relationship with Qi Yuan's mother. And she did not give Qi Yuan a reaction time. She said, how many of them hit you? Are you only injured? What about them? Although it was me who matched the three of them one by one, but they didn't get better. I found the guy's lifeblood. It is estimated that he will lie in the hospital for a long time, and maybe it will only become zero in the future. Knowing that Yanj was not a person from the bar, Qi Yuan immediately relaxed himself, and a fierce side appeared in his expression. The hospital soon arrived. Qi Yuan looked outside and saw that it was a hospital. He immediately said, I don't go to the hospital. This minor injury doesn't require me to go to the hospital. He didn't have a dime in his pocket, let alone go to the hospital. He couldn't afford to buy a band-aid. Yan Ji got out of the car first, opened the door of the co-pilot, and waved towards Qi Yuan. Inspection first, there is an appraisal. Even if those people want to find something later, we still have an injury basis. This argument can stand up. Qi Yuan opened his mouth and couldn't speak, but just dropped his head and followed the song. Fortunately, the registration fee and medical bills didn't wait for him to speak, and the woman who claimed to be his aunt was all settled. Qi Yuan had a serious injury caused by a wine bottle. Because of the delay and fear of infection, he could not sew the needle. After shaving his hair, he would go to the hospital every day to clean the wound. Yanj memorized the doctor's instructions one by one, and took the medicine, and then pulled Qi Yuan, who was almost wrapped in a gauze, and walked out. It's okay, but fortunately, I came to the hospital and opened a hole in my head. It's okay to call everything. Are you thinking about letting your brains go? Qi Yuan didn't say anything. His arm was held by a woman. The woman was one step ahead of him. He slightly raised his eyes to see the woman's side face. This woman, who claims to be his aunt, actually doesn't look much older than him. No, it may not even be him. The woman with glasses, shawl hair, and a little wavy hair, although very sharp and lean when talking, but when not talking, like a little princess in a fairy tale, looks cute and charming. At the moment she joked slightly at him, but it was another taste in his ear. He didn't know what was happening to him. His face suddenly became hot, especially his ears, which made him want to reach out and rub it, but his body was stiff, and she was allowed to pull forward. He was watching the woman secretly. He's been out for so long, not counting the little sisters and sisters that he occasionally recognizes. He has already made 3 fixed girlfriends, and often hangs out in bars. Many women in him watch him look good at him, but no like her. It made him feel the rush of heartbeat. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 49. Chi Yuan could not help but asked, "What's your name? What is your relationship with my mother? How old are you?" "My name is Su Yan, it's your mother's sister. You can call my aunt in the future. I am more than you. When you speak to me in the future, remember to use respect." "Auntie. This woman doesn't look too big, how dare she claim to be his aunt?" Yanji opened the door and let Chi Yuan get in the car. He touched Chi Yuan's head and comforted him, "Rest assured, I'm not a bad person." Touched by the head, there is an illusion of becoming a pet. Chi Yuan bowed his head, his body was motionless. Yanj got in the car and reminded him, "Fasten your seat belt." Chi Yuan seems to have reacted this time. While wearing a seat belt, he asked, "Are you looking for me? Is there anything wrong?" "In counting, you are my only loved one. To find you, of course, there is a large inheritance for you to inherit." Chi Yuan looked up in amazement, and Yanj laughed, "What? Think I don't look like a rich man?" Chi Yuan didn't believe this kind of good thing that the pie fell from the sky. His phrase "you are really my aunt" came to his mouth, but he was eventually swallowed into his stomach. He is not indifferent to his parents. Although his mother died early, he also knows that he has no so-called aunt. He had only a puppet spoiled by his grandfather's patriarch. The stomach murmured twice at this time, his hands in his sleeves tightened. He has no money. The basement rented by the bar has not paid his rent for 2 months. He is waiting for the salary of this month to be in a hurry, but now the salary is definitely not available. Is this woman going to take him in? No matter what purpose she has, no matter what she is near him for. As long as she was sure to accept him, he would not ask. It was late at night, and most of the restaurants on both sides of the street were closed. Yan Ji led Chi Yuan to his apartment where he usually wrote the script. This apartment is regarded as the host's office, with separate bedrooms and kitchens, and it is also a place where the host likes to settle down on weekdays. Find a pair of disposable slippers from the shoe cabinet and hand them to Chi Yuan. She opened the door of the refrigerator and looked at the food inside. The host is a house girl. There is really no patience or talent in cooking. There is no food in the refrigerator. Instead, there are several boxes of instant noodles in the kitchen. Yanj boiled 3 packets of instant noodles, beat 3 poached eggs, and put some tomatoes and hemp sauce in it. She filled a small bowl and filled Chi Yuan with a large pot. The kitchen bowls are too small to hold, so you can only find a large basin. He greeted Chi Yuan to put the instant noodles on the table together, and 2 people sat at the table, and the silent ones ate the instant noodles. "Are you full?" Yanj asked him, "Would you like to cook another bag?" Chi Yuan shook his head, "I'm full." But in fact, if such a large bowl comes again, he can still finish it. Yanj found Wang Xiaoming's set of pajamas that she hadn't worn yet, and handed it to Chi Yuan, "Go to take a bath. I will sleep on the sofa for 1 night today. Don't wet the wounds on my head while taking a bath." Chi Yuan nodded, holding the male clothes in his hand. "Are there men in this room?" So he was the first man to come to this house? Although I had doubts, I didn't ask. He had to bow his head under the eaves. He was very interesting. When he was out of the shower, he found that Yanj was standing by the balcony and calling. He walked a few steps silently, standing at the corner, listening to the words of the song. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 50. I know, I do have a lot of mistakes. Yanj is not the host, so when receiving the call from Wang Xiaoming, he was very calm and calm. "I hope you can give me some time and let me take care of myself." Wang Xiaoming on the other side of the phone was standing in the bathroom, the water from the faucet was rattling, his voice was a little low, small words, "I'm sorry, I really, really loved you, loved and loved, I don't know how we got here. This is a hit and a sweet date, Yanj interrupted him, it's too late, I'm going to bed, I mainly want to tell you that you don't call me over and over again. Again, it's annoying me. I'll have time to talk later, goodbye. After talking, I did not wait for the other end to respond, and already hung up the phone. He took a long breath and turned to see Chi Yuen coming out of the bathroom. Yan Ji calmly pointed at the quilt pillow on the sofa, although the quilt and pillow are a little feminine, they are never used. You make up tonight a bit. Chi Yuen followed Yan Ji's gaze and saw the pink princess-style quilt and pillow on the sofa. He bowed his head and said, "Thank you, it's fine." The words no longer talked, and walked towards the bedroom. This time the mighty one is too weak, and the wishes of the host can be easily realized. She feels that she will complete this trip perfectly. The only thing that bothered her was her baldness. Balding makes her anxious. The scariest thing was that she had no idea how long she would maintain her baldness. How much she used to expect her natal instrument, now she is disgusted. The chicken's inability to understand this wood's perverted/morphic beauty is incompetent, but it does not prevent it from being a good friend and consoling song. If your natal weapon can come out, it will be in the future. It's nice to have something nearby. Yan Ji lying on the bed with his lips shut, without a word in his face. The chicken flinched. After the routine comfort was finished, he turned his head and smashed the seeds, while continuing to chase the drama. This geeky system space is exactly his favorite, and he really wants to hang around for a lifetime. As soon as the next day, the knock on the door rang. Chi Yuen had already got up, and he had a realization under the fence, so he woke up and went to the kitchen silently. He wanted to make breakfast, but he didn't expect anything else in the kitchen except instant noodles and eggs. He didn't even have the opportunity to develop his only specialty, so he had to make an egg soup silently, fry an egg cake, and fry an egg dish. It's all eggs. Although he can't get tired of it, he is really afraid that Yanj will be disgusted. Of course, before cooking, Chi Yuen also looked at the house, and the city center was so rich in money. Although the apartment was not large, he felt that if the house was in the name of a song, that song should be regarded as a real rich man. However, it may be rented. The woman said she had something to do with his mother, and it was his aunt. In fact, he didn't believe it at all. He used to see men and women in the bar, most of them came out to play with women, and more often came to find lonely young women with little white faces. Although he had no impression of Yanj, he thought that Yanj might have been to the bar and was one of those young women. It may be possible to beat him long ago and take this opportunity last night to take him home to want to raise a beautiful boy.